He said the words, just like that. It happened so quietly you'd almost think it was nothing. No gavel, no crowd leaning in to hear a verdict. Just him, standing before the household gods, not even raising his voice when he said it.
Rest tuas tibi habeto. Take back what is yours.
And in that moment, I realized what was mine had never really been mine at all. I keep replaying that instant in my head, wondering how a whole life can crack on a single sentence. One breath, one choice that wasn't even mine to make. And suddenly, I'm not a wife, just a guest being quietly shown to the door. It makes you ask yourself, if your place can be taken away so easily, did you ever truly belong? The lamps were flickering in the atrium, and the shadows on the walls looked longer than they should, like the house was stretching itself away from me. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I reached for my cloak and the small things I was allowed to take. The slaves watched from the doorway. His slaves, his eyes, even now. I could feel them measuring the distance between the woman I had been that morning and the woman carrying her own life out in a box. One of them held the chest open while I packed what I was allowed. The necklace my father clasped around my neck on my wedding day. The linens I embroidered when I still believed this house would be my world forever. Each piece I laid inside felt like I was peeling away another layer of myself. The hinges creaked, the fabrics rustled, tiny sounds in a big room, and it felt as if the domus itself was whispering,
You were only ever on loan.
Sometimes I think of the stories they tell, to comfort or to warn us. How Spurius Carvilius sent away his faithful wife because she bore him no children, praised by some for loving the state more than his marriage, pitied by others for his coldness. They say the law allowed it, that the 12 tables themselves took such divorces for granted. But I wonder if his wife stood as I do now, wondering when she had become a problem to be solved, instead of a person to be loved. When I stepped outside, the air felt colder than it had any right to be. I didn't have to look up to know the neighbors were watching from their thresholds, eyes sliding over me like a judgment. Their whispers were soft, almost kind in tone, but every word carried a question. What did she do? Too proud? Too quiet? Not enough children? The truth is, for women like me, the cause doesn't really matter. The story always ends the same way. He speaks, you leave. The cruelest part is that the law does not see me as a mother in the way it sees him as a father. My children stayed behind, under his patria potestas, as if some invisible chain held them inside that doorway, even when I was still under his roof. Loving them and teaching them, the law said they were his alone. I was only ever the arms that held what he already owned. I heard my youngest cry out, a small broken sound that cut straight through my spine, and every instinct in me screamed to turn back. The law doesn't call it cruelty, it calls it order. Children belong to the Father. The house belongs to the Father. Even the gods on the altar seemed to lean slightly in his direction. As I walked away, the dust from the street clung to my hem, turning the fabric heavy. It struck me how strange it is that people say divorce is easy for us Romans. Just a few words. No magistrate, no trial. Easy for whom? Exactly. They like to talk about great men and their bold choices. How Octavian cast off Scribonia the very day she bore him a daughter, sending her away so he could take Livia's hand instead, joining himself to a more useful house. To them, it's politics, a clever move in a larger game. To the woman dismissed, it is just another door closing, another child left behind, in a house where her name is no longer welcome. They say our laws are efficient and practical. No need for judges when a man decides he no longer wants the woman who shares his bed and raises his children. But if it takes so little to end a marriage, what does that say about the value of a woman's life inside it? If a promise can be undone with a phrase, was it ever a promise to me, or only an agreement between men? Now I sleep in my brother's small house near the Subura, where the walls are thinner and the nights louder. Sometimes, when I lie awake listening to drunk voices in the alley, I wonder who I am without that old doorway, those rooms, those children's footsteps on the tiles. Am I still a mother if the law says they are not mine to keep? Or am I just a woman who used to tuck them in and now tucks her memories into the dark instead? When I walk through the forum, I watch other women with their children. I study the curve of a little girl's cheek, the way a boy tips his head when his mother speaks, and for a heartbeat, I let myself imagine they are mine. Then I remind myself that somewhere my own children are doing the same, looking up at a face that is not mine, learning to live with my absence as if it were always part of the plan. Sometimes I pray that when they stand before the household flame, they will hear my voice in the crackle of it, or see my hands in their own when they make offerings. Sometimes I tell myself that I am free now, that I can choose differently, speak more openly, breathe without waiting for another person's permission. But if freedom means walking away with a box while your children stay behind, it is a freedom edged with knives. It leaves you asking these quiet questions. What is a woman worth in a world where her children, her home, even her name in that house can be taken away with a sentence? What does love mean when the law can ignore it so completely? Mostly, I move through the days doing ordinary things, fetching water, mending clothes, nodding to neighbors who pretend not to stare, and I try to stitch some kind of new life out of the scraps I have left. Yet, there is a hollow place inside me where my home used to be, where my children's laughter used to live. People say time will soften this, that the gods give new paths when old ones are closed. Maybe they are right, but for now, when I close my eyes, I still see the atrium lamps flickering, still hear his calm voice saying, "Rest to us, tibi, habeto," as if he were returning an object he had borrowed and not a whole human life. And I think, if a man's word can unmake my world, perhaps the world was never built for women like me at all.
Rest to us tibi habeto. Take back what is yours.